all of the rares are now revealed for the Deadmines mini set for United and Stormwind. We saw all the comments yesterday, some pretty cool ideas, but overall I wasn't too excited to see how they would perform because I don't think they'll be that good. Hopefully the rares surprise me. Let's do it, starting off with Proving Grounds. 6 mana Demon Hunter card spell. Summon 2 minions from your deck, they fight. Very interesting. It would be the interaction of 2 of your own minions fighting, which is very peculiar. I don't think this card is inherently great. The benefit of this, though, is you could use the Death Rattle Demon Hunter card that summons a demon from your hand. And if that fights with 2 of them, then you summon 2 big boys from your hand. Probably too much of a pipe dream. Maybe this is the start of Big Demon Hunter actually being really good, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Not super optimistic on it, but could be really fun and cool if, you know, Quest Mage wasn't there. Moonlight Guidance, 2 mana Druid spell. Arcane, discover a copy of a card in your deck. If you play it this turn, draw the original. Discover a copy of your deck, you play it this turn, draw the original. That is a really good card. You like to see that card in almost every single spell deck for Druid. Fits right into basically Lady Anacondra, because you can use this for like an extra Cenarian Ward, an extra Solar Eclipse, extra card draw, because you look for, I don't even know, guess the weight, and then guess the weight comes, and then use guess the weight again to get a bunch of card draw. Probably will be used really good off like nature studies as well. Pretty good Druid card. Druid likes these type of cards. Just gonna be good enough, guaranteed. Jerry Rig Carpenter, 2 mana 2/1 for Druid. Battlecry, draw a choose 1 spell and split it. It's also a pirate. So I'd imagine the way this would work is like if you had, I don't know, what's a choose 1 spell? I'm gonna use Wrath, even though it's not in standard anymore. You get one that says deal 3 damage, and then you have one that says deal 1 damage and draw a card. Pretty good idea. Is this going to be good enough? Maybe. I don't know. You do get to draw a card, which is nice. So a little bit questionable. I would have to see with the rest of the choose 1 spells and go through it. But first impression of this is it doesn't really fit into a lot of stuff right now. So I don't know. Maybe later this card could be very strong, though. Having the flexibility is always nice because sometimes you just want to play like the +1/+1 for Power of the Wild instead of getting the Panther. So I could definitely see it. It's just more value. Sometimes that's going to be good enough. Then we have Doggy Biscuit, 2 mana Hunter spell, tradable. Give a minion +2/+3. After you trade this, give a friendly minion rush. Interesting. So you would want to play the minion first and then trade this. This is kind of the first time we've ever seen a tradable card like this, where usually you want to trade first because you want to cycle the card and get a draw. Now it's like, okay, well, maybe this will be good enough. The problem with this card is, like, again, you need to have a minion in play and then just trade this in. So best case scenario is you need 3 mana for a 1-drop. Is that good enough? We'll have to wait and see. They're definitely pushing more of a board-centric hunter deck, not really face or, I guess, like, spell like Questline Hunter is. It's more about, like, the Death Rattle, it seems. Could be good in a Death Rattle deck. I'm not super optimistic on this card either, though. It's usually pretty slow for Hunter. Okay, 5 more cards. Let's go. Deepwater Evoker, 4 mana 3/4 Mage minion, Battlecry. Draw a spell, gain armor equal to its cost. It's a pirate. Okay, first and foremost, I really like the design of this card. It is effective enough as a draw. Basically, the extra mana here on the stat line is to draw a card, but on top of that, you can get a really good amount of armor. Now, this fits right with the pirate that we saw yesterday. So basically, you would want to play this, draw a really expensive card, get the armor from it. If you get like Mask of Thune, that's 7 armor. So this is almost like Ice Barrier guaranteed, which is very strong. And then you have that with the parrot, hopefully after you play Mask of Thune on 7. That's a pretty good idea. This really helps the big mage deck happen. So I actually really like this card. This card's really well designed. I hope that this deck actually comes through fruition, but we'll have to wait and see if it's better than Quest Mage, right? Next on the list is Arcane Overflow, 5 mana. So this would work with potentially that spell. Deal 8 damage to an enemy minion. Summon a remnant with the stats equal to the excess damage. Holy moly, this has the potential to kind of destroy someone. You're playing this against a 1 health minion. You play this, you get a 7/7. Worst case scenario, you kill a minion. Pretty decent. 5 mana for this. Definitely interesting. It really depends on what kind of decks are popular and if a 7/7 or whatever minion you get from this is worth it. This is a good tempo swapping card. So if you're behind, you play this, you get a lot of tempo back. I could actually see this being played in some kind of control, maybe even a Quest Mage deck for an extra minion for you to get. But again, I don't think this is going to be too powerful, but it is definitely a really interesting card to see for Mage. Kind of interesting. Wealth Redistributor, 5-mana 2/8 for Paladin. Taunt, Battlecry, swap the attack of the highest and lowest attack minion Pirate. So I don't know if the interaction works with this card inherently. Like if you play this, does this swap with another minion? And if that's the case, this card's way better than I would have thought. If not, if like you play this and there's only one other minion on the board, this card's not super great. This card has a very high life total though. So if you do get to swap with this minion, it is pretty decent. But again, like it's kind of like, where would you want this in? Like, do you want this in some kind of tempo Paladin deck? Maybe. Not 100% optimistic on a lot of this, but it could be to just swap an attack if it works like that. It really depends. I think it does work like that, I would guess. But if it does not work with like a swapping with this attack, I am not a huge fan of this card. All really depends on that. But I don't think it's inherently that strong either. It might be just too slow. Righteous Defense, 3-mana Paladin spell. Set a minion's attack and health to 1. Give the stats it lost to your minion in your hand. Okay. This is like reverse hand buffing, which is so random. Now, this is a pretty good card against like a Flesh Giant because you're giving a minion probably 7/7 worth of stats in your hands. There's a couple caveats here. You need a minion in your hand and you need to have this spell and you need to prepare it for a very special minion. This card often is probably not going to be good enough, if I'm being honest. Like, let's say the average minion you do this on is like a 5/5, right? You're spending 3 mana to get 4/4 of stats and reduce their attack, and then you have to play the minion after. Probably okay. Definitely like not bad. This card's nuts in arena, by the way. It's very strong. But is this going to be good enough? Again, very questionable. Like a lot of this is dependent on if the meta remains the same. If the meta kind of remains the same, then it's not that great. But if it changes to be a little bit more board centric-y, then sure. The other benefit of this card is that if controlled Paladin ever comes back, this card's very strong because you could put this on like a lifesteal minion or a taunt and it just becomes a little bit better. So it has potential. Copycat, 3-mana 3/4 beast for priest. Love the artwork, by the way. Battlecry, add a copy of the next card your opponent placed in your hand. That is really interesting. This is entirely dependent on how you predict your opponent's turn and if your opponent is paying enough attention to give you a good card. Sometimes though, the card will not really be that beneficial for you because of it doesn't really interact with the way you want to play your deck or whatever. Like sometimes you just don't want a card. Like you don't want Power of the Wild in this deck, right? Like you wouldn't care. So again, like it comes down to the decision of like, do you want to play a card that is potentially fine? You do get a card back, but your opponent could somewhat play around it unless you could predict like them overgrowthing, which is really good. So could have potential. This one is a little bit probably mid 2, like 2.5 out of 5. I had to give a rating on it. Really cool design though. Oh God. Jesus Christ, hurt my ears. Parlay, 1-mana rogue spell. Swap this card in your opponent's deck. Swap this for a card in your opponent's deck. Cool idea. So they would get this card. So that means if they drew it, they would swap with your opponent's deck. This is kind of disruption, like soft disruption in a sense. You can win the game straight up from this card. If you pull like Il'gynoth from OTK Demon Hunter, it's probably insane. Probably don't put this card in your deck though. If I'm being honest with you, you probably just discover it randomly and that's probably going to be it. Cool card. Really like the idea of this card. Like the flavor too. It's really interesting. But again, I don't still see it. Sucker Hook, 4-mana 3/6 Shaman Pirate. At the end of your turn, transform your weapon into one that costs 1 more. Interesting. I don't even know where you would want this for. Transform your weapon into one that costs 1 more. So best case scenario here is you play Whack-A-Null on 3 or you play the Gavel on 2 and then you coin it out and get a 3. I don't know if this is good. Really weird. You definitely want to keep this card around though, so you get infinite value. There's some really good weapons, and as you go up, there's some really good ones like Doomhammer's nuts. Gorehowl is pretty strong. Libram of Corruption or whatever that is, the weapon is definitely fine. I don't know. It's really interesting because like the problem with this is that you need a weapon. If you don't have a weapon, then it's not good at all. But you would probably put enough density of weapons. But like, is upgrading your weapon even good enough? It's definitely a cool idea. Again, if the meta becomes more board centric and you're fighting for board, this card's very strong. Good stat line for what it does. I like the card a lot. It's cool. Really interesting design. Hullbreaker, 4-mana 4/3 demon for Warlock. Battlecry and Death Rattle. Draw a spell. Your hero takes damage equal to its cost, and I already said it's a demon. Again, really interesting design here. Do you want to take that much damage is probably not that bad. This probably fits right into Quest Warlock in a sense. You can make some probably really wonky combos here. Really like the card is cool too. He's like banging into a boat. This is cool. It's a lot of draw. And I guess like this in sense would replace your tap. You would probably have a pretty, like, you're drawing a spell too. You're also tutoring a spell. So like in Quest Warlock right now, you're running like Drain Soul, Touch of the Nathrazam. It's just another proc for Flesh Giants. This is probably going to be ran, I think maybe one of in the Quest Warlock deck, potentially. This is a good card. This will like throw out Warlock's lifespan as long as this is in standard. It's good. Oh, we have another weapon. Cool. 4-mana 5/1 Blacksmithing Hammer, tradable. After you trade this, gain +2 durability. Really interesting card design. So technically speaking, this card can solo you the game, because if you're a warrior, this is your win condition on its own. Like you just get this to the point where it's like 6 durability and just smack your opponent's face every single turn. You're probably running other weapons. 4 mana, it's kind of interesting. The trade, this is a pretty good card. Like straight up, like even in against Quest Mage, this is just good because you have a win condition throughout other than playing minions. So I definitely like this card design. This is a cool card. I like this card a lot. Really interesting. Multicaster, 4-mana 3/4 neutral pirate. Battlecry, draw a card for each different spell cool you cast this game. Really cool design. Really awesome design, to be honest. Neutral card draw is pretty good for the game, and generally speaking, a lot of the classes can use this. So this is a good card, good neutral card. There's nothing else to say. If you need card draw, this is pretty good, and you get spells. I think that's everything for now. But yeah, at the moment, I'm liking the mini set. Again, like I'm a little skeptical on if any of these cards are going to make that much of an impact because of how strong like Quest Mage or Garrett Rogue is. But we'll have to wait and see. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this. You look fantastic.